views and opinions expressed do not necessarily reflect those of Access Fort Wayne, the Allen County Public Library, or any other supporting groups. If you'd like to produce a show, call us at 260-421-1250.
Hello, welcome to the American Veteran. I'm Dale Parrish, your host. My co-host is Bud Mendenhall, and our guest is Ed Hagadorn. Ed was with us on a previous program talking about World War II. This program he'll be talking about his time in Korea. Welcome to the show again, Ed.
Thank you.
What year? You was over in Korea in the very first part of the war, right?
I was there in the fall of 1950. Wasn't the first part, but it was
Started in
the
June.
worst part.
Yeah.
I think. Yeah,
You entered through Busan or Incheon or what?
I entered through Busan. Leading up to my Korean tour was I decided to re-enlist, and I took actually went down to Indianapolis, took my physical, and a major down there says, "I don't know what you're excited about. They're not going to take you old guys." He said they're going to take the active reserves first. I was in the inactive reserves. We never went to any meetings or anything. And so we drove from Indianapolis to Greeley, Colorado, and at Greeley, Colorado, the woman in charge of our dorm says, "You have a registered letter here from your dad." I said, "You're supposed to call home as soon as you get here." So I called home. Dad says, "You got the registered letter." And I said, "Open it up and tell me what it says." He says, "You're hereby ordered to report to Fort Hood, Texas within 2 weeks for immediate military duty." So I thought, man, oh man, here the major just told me that they wouldn't call us up. Well, the funny part of it is we went to Fort Hood, Texas. At St. Louis, Missouri, there was another bunch that got on the train there. And here walking down the aisle was my platoon sergeant from World War II being called back into active duty. We went to Fort Hood, and we just kind of made a mockery out of the Army. Hell, it was all non-coms, and we had privates and that telling us what to do, and we just flipped them off and said, "We've been through this before." And but we took 2 weeks there, mostly to get us in shape, and we were shipped right over to Sasebo, Japan, where we got weapons and everything, and where we were going. We went to Busan there, and I was assigned to the 1st Cav Division of the 8th Cav Regiment, the Dog Company, which was a heavy machine gun company. We took a train up to Pyongyang, which was the capital of North Korea. The Cav had already been there, occupied it, and we went to a little town just north of there, where everybody was laughing at us. So why you guys coming in here? The war's over with. MacArthur has assured us that the war is over, will be over by Christmas, and you guys will be home. And here it is, October, so you guys are not going to spend very long here. Well, little did they know, because headquarters of the Cav right after I got there said they got reports that the 1st Rock Division, Republic of Korea Division, is in trouble up north by the Yalu River. They've been in battle with Chinese forces, and we're supposed to go up to a little town called Unsan and set up machine gun positions along the road there so that the Rock Army can pull back through you guys. We were under strength and everything, but we had a full regiment up there, which when it's about 3,000 men, we didn't have anywhere near that. And so we got the first hill guarding the roads there, and we spread out. I went up there. In fact, I hadn't even got to know most of the men in my platoon. And so got up there, and I set up our machine guns, and where we had a perfect field of fire all along the road, along the front there. And I had all of the places that our weapons couldn't cover. I had zeroed in with 81 millimeter mortars. And so I felt we were in great shape up there. And so little did we know that what was going to happen up there. But we started seeing the South Korean troops coming back through our lines. And so all at once we picked up a couple of uniforms. We said, hell, these are different uniforms than what the South Koreans has got. So we captured a couple of them, and we took them back and had them interrogated. And we had a officer who had been in the Chinese army under Chiang Kai-shek. So he interrogated these Chinamen, and they said, hey, there's thousands of Chinese in the mountains up here. And so our commanding general of the 1st Cav Division, he started to get concerned. And he asked MacArthur and asked Walton Walker to, hey, pull back my 8th Cav because they're setting up here not protected by anything. They're setting up here all alone. And Walker says, no, that's my instructions for the Cav to stay up there. So unfortunately, we didn't get pulled back. And on Halloween Eve, we got hit by the Chinese. They just come in masses. The first waves didn't even have weapons. They had clubs and sticks and everything. And I crawled around and told my sergeants to tell your gunners, our machine gunners, don't open fire because they're hunting the automatic weapons in our lines. If they find the automatic weapons, they can knock them out, and then the infantry up here is going to be paralyzed because the automatic weapons is the lifeblood of an infantry force. So and to top it off, the temperatures were 35 below zero, and the wind was blowing down through the mountains, so no telling what the wind chill factors would have been up there, probably 50 below. And so we stacked up the Chinese that we had killed out in front of our position. We stacked them up like cordwood to protect us. And it made a nice, easy barrier. And so the next day, we got hit again. And this was a little bit better outfit. they had weapons, rifles and so forth that hit us, and we still did not open fire with our automatic weapons, which was a godsend for us. The next day we got hit full blast with the Chinese army. There was bugles blowing, whistles blowing, hollering, screaming. There was Chinese on horseback, and they ended up getting a direct hit on our ammo dump with a Katusky rocket. And there we were. We got a lot of the wounded and everything. We got them back to our command post, and a doctor and a chaplain said that they were going to stay there with the wounded. And of course they'd be captured and become POWs. We were hoping the wounded would be helped by the Chinese. We were overrun, and I called back for artillery fire. I was going to try to bring the artillery fire in almost on top of us. However, I couldn't get through to the artillery, and after we got back here, they'd been captured already, and all of the lines had been cut. And so I said, well, I got 8 guys here that are not wounded, and we got a chance to make it out of here. So that's when we heard an officer say, every man for himself, and he jumped in a tank, and that's when I kind of lost faith in our command officers. Excuse me. I had a compass, and I had some rounds of ammunition and so forth, and I told the guys, I said, well, we can head south, and we got a chance maybe of making it out of here. There was roadblocks all over, and so we made it back to it. In 8 days, we made it back to a dry creek bed, and I saw some lights on the other side of the creek bed, and so I hollered over, and I said, are you an American force? And they answered yes. And they said, who are you guys? And I said, well, we're part of the 1st Cav Division, the 8th Cav that was overrun at Unsan. And they said, how do we know that? And I said, well, you just got to take our word. Well, the Chinese could speak really good English. And so one of the officers of we found out later it was and anyway, we found out later that it was a engineering outfit. So one of the officers says, well, if you guys say you're Americans, we're going to ask you some questions, and if you can answer them, why, don't move from where you're at, because you're right across from a minefield, and we'll have to send somebody over to lead you through the minefield. So he started asking capitals, state capitals. So he was kind of shrewd, because he asked like California. Most people say Los Angeles. Well, we had answers to all of them. New York, well, I forget what couple of them was. But anyway, the last one he asked was Indiana, and I said, hell, I know what that is, Fort. And then I stopped. I said, Indianapolis. I said, I'm from Fort Wayne. He said, stay where you're at, and we'll lead you through this minefield. So we got through that. We got back, and we said, do you know where the 1st Cav Division headquarters is? He said, yeah, it's just down the road here, a couple of miles. We'll take you down to it. So they asked us all kinds of questions about what went on up there. And it turned out it's known to us who was there as the Halloween Massacre. because we lost about half of the 8th Cav Division up there, or the regiment. We were pushed back from up above Pyongyang, clear back to south of Seoul, and when we left Pyongyang, my machine gun platoon set up on a hill so that all of the other groups behind us could come through us, and we would be the protecting force for them. Well, the Chinese weren't too far down the road from us, so we were glad to get back in our jeeps and trucks and head south. Well, we made it all the way back through Seoul, and we set up just south of the river there, the Han River, and lo and behold, we thought we were pretty much out of the combat zone, and we were getting our rations out to eat, our sea rations, and all at once we looked up, and here come these swept-wing jets, and we thought, oh my God, MiGs. At the time, the swept wings, the only ones we knew of were the MiGs, and who were Russian jets. And then we looked up and saw the American on them, and they were Sabre jets. And so we were pushed on down another probably 100 miles down, and that's when Walton Walker was killed, and General Ridgway took over the command. MacArthur had been fired, and Ridgway said American forces are no longer going to be road bound. They're going to be all the way across Korea. And so they were set up. We were set up all the way across Korea. And we were then started to push the Chinese back. The Chinese, one thing was, when you started to get the best of them, they would surrender or retreat, where the North Koreans were like the Japanese. You had to dig them out and kill them. If you bypassed any, then the troops behind you caught heck from them. So Ridgway set up this plan where we would be all the way across the Korean peninsula. Well, the last Chinese offensive was, they hit the British outfit first, and the British held. Fortunately for the American forces, the British held and took tremendous casualties. And we moved up to help support them, and we were on a hill there, and boy, all at once we were going out, and on patrol we were going to be an extended patrol for approximately 2 weeks, and so we were sitting there in defensive position, and all at once the lead infantry company, which was Baker Company, was going to jump off, and we were going to follow with them and give them covering fire. Well, before they could jump off, all at once fire began coming in on them, and there was 2 or 3 there killed close to me, and so I kind of crawled around. I was on a little knoll there, and I kind of crawled around, and I could see a pillbox down there that was machine gun fire coming from it. And I thought, oh man, if I could roll down that hill, I could knock that thing out. Well, I didn't have any grenades, so I asked a rifleman, I said, you got any grenades? And he says, well, I got one concussion grenade, and I got a fragmentation grenade. I said, well, ask your buddy there if he's got any grenades. And he says, yeah, I got a white phosphorus grenade. I said, well, give it to me. So I went back over and I looked down that hill to that machine gun bunker, and I thought, I can get down there in about 8 seconds. I can roll down to that. So I pulled the pin on a grenade, on a fragmentation grenade, and I was praying that it wasn't a short fuse. You got 10 seconds for that grenade to explode. Well, you don't want to get it in a bunker too quick, or they'll throw it back out at you. So I armed a grenade. I started to roll down that hill, and out came a potato masher, which is a concussion grenade. It blew my helmet off in that, but it didn't stun me or anything. So I kept rolling down. I counted 8 seconds. And I was probably about 20 feet from the bunker, and I was down below, so they couldn't shoot out at me. So I pitched a grenade, and it just went in the opening and exploded. And there was about 2 Chinamen came out of there that had been pretty badly wounded. The others were killed, and I killed both of them with my .45. And then I crawled around that bunker, and I could see the next one. And I thought, boy, I can reach that bunker too. So I rolled over towards it, and I thought, well, all I got now is a smoke grenade. So I pulled the pin on that and let it fly, and it went right into that bunker. And everybody in there come out of there like a covey of quail, and the riflemen had a field day. They wiped them all out. So from there I come up the hill. And I'll never forget, I had a can of spaghetti and meatballs on a can of canned heat. And I had told my sergeants, I said, hey, if something happens to me, you guys can eat this. I said, but if I make it back alive, they better be here. I got back up on that hill, and it was about 30 minutes. I couldn't stop shaking. I thought, my God, what did you do? You could have been killed. And so my platoon leader, he thought I was going to get killed, so he had come out down the hill, and he got a piece of shrapnel in his rear end, and he ended up with a Purple Heart. And so I didn't think too much about it, and maybe a couple of weeks later, the regimental commander come around and said, we're turning you in for the Distinguished Service Cross. And I didn't think too much about it, you know, because we were still really involved in war, and we still had a lot of ways to go. And so the next thing I heard was that one of the artillery officers up there had said that you didn't do enough to earn the Distinguished Service Cross, that you're going to get the Silver Star. Yeah. So they turned me in for the Silver Star, which I received. And but one of the really funny things was that, you know, the Chinese reeked of garlic. They ate garlic constantly, and we were up on this hill, and of course at night we didn't like to fight at night. We wanted to see what we was fighting, and so the Chinese had a good trick. If you was up on the hill, they would crawl up right by your holes. If you happened to be asleep, you was dead. And so my buddy, who was from Terre Haute, Indiana, who was in the medics, and he'd come over as as a radio man for me, and he'd wander out. He didn't have any infantry training, his medic training, but he was in the hole with me, and boy, I got this whiff of garlic, and I knew a Chinaman was close. Well, just about that time, every so often we'd send up flares to light up the battlefield so we could see. There he laid, about that far from my foxhole. And so I just reached down in my boot. I had a trench knife that was really sharp. I just reached out and grabbed him by the nape of his neck and pulled him in and slit his throat. And Arnold said, "Ed, throw him out, throw him out." And I said, "You can't do that. They'll know where we're at." And I said, "Anyway, he's not going to snore." And he and I became super, super friends. And right after that, why, my number come up. I had enough points to come home. And so I got out of Korea alive.
What year was that?
1951.
51.
Yep. I got out of Korea in July of 1951. And I was supposed to have a parade and a ceremony awarding a Silver Star, and which is the third highest, the Medal of Honor, but they never done it. When I left Korea, an officer come up, a major, and said, "Here's your award for the Silver Star." Says as soon as you get back to the States, where you're going to be discharged, tell them and they'll have a parade for you. So I never did. I thought, hell, I don't want to get the troops out like that, because I know how I used to hate to have to stand out there. So funny part of it is, when I'm a life member of the 1st Cav Division. I go down, not anymore, but I used to go down all the time religiously to their reunions at Fort Hood, Texas. And so unfortunately, we got one of the Korean decorations that just came out, not a few years back. Well, the Cav had everybody that was coming to the reunion to fill out a form, and they decorated us out there. The commanding general did, with that medal. And with me, with my big mouth, I said, I won the Silver Star in Korea and was never honored to receive it. He says, "Are you telling me the truth?" And I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, you're going to be honored now." So, however, I'm fortunate to be alive. I'm fortunate to be here when it was 35 below zero in North Korea that we fought in. I said, I went from temperatures above the 100 degrees in New Guinea in World War II, and now I'm fighting in 35 below zero.
Okay. Ed, thank you for being here. I've enjoyed your stories about Korea, and I hope you enjoyed Ed's stories. With Memorial Day coming up shortly, please keep in mind the hundreds of thousands of American men and women that have given their lives to protect our freedom. And also, let's not forget the veterans that has returned home without their arms and legs, or maybe lost their sight. They and their loved ones know better than anyone the cost of freedom. So thank you, and good night.